Okay, now we have a Sears Craftsman drill, and I got a half decent deal on this Yardworks charger, 18 to 24 volt, with a handy dandy clip thing here, and an 18 volt lithium ion battery, Yardworks, that I got a deal on. And of course, this should go on there, but it doesn't, because this isn't the right charger for this battery, which is the beauty of it all, because it's 18 volt, it's got a charger built in here, we got a battery that has a charger built in here. I could just put an adapter in there, but it's just not the way the other one works. So in order to keep it kind of the same, we're going to do a little butchering. Okay, here we have an old battery. Now it's got a Torx, safety Torx. So if you drill out that pin in the middle, just a little bit, just enough to drill it, then you can use a normal Torx, pushing down a little hard to get it going, but it should come out. You go around and do all these, drill them a little, then you can get them out. Okay, we'll move on to that in 1 second when we get the cover off. Okay, so now we got all the screws out. Simply wiggle jiggle a little, and that comes right off. Now, that top you're going to need, the bottom you don't. The clips, I'm not sure what to do with them yet. We're going to work on that later. So, pull that all out. Now you can rip this thing out, but it's kind of stuck. So you're going to need a little prying. Don't sweat it. We don't really need the bottom anymore. So it doesn't matter if you break it. The important thing is to get it out. Oh, really? Without getting a screwdriver in the eye would be preferable. Just kind of glued down there. So. There we go. That don't need. Garbage. Okay. You need this plug. You also need this. Right here is the temperature sensor. You can try and rip it out, but you don't want to damage it, so just kind of cut at it. Pull that battery up a little bit. Just slice it nicely. There you go. Now you got your sensor out there. I have to wreck that wire. There we go. There's also this one here. Don't need that. Okay, so mostly we need this plug. We got to drill those out. Now, this is the top of the battery. This happens to be from a Yardworks, which of course doesn't fit because it slides on and goes to those contacts. So in order to put this onto that,
I'm going to have to drill some holes, put some screws in, but I got to get rid of this. So I'm going to run it in the bandsaw. We'll just chop that top off, make it nice and flat. And that's pretty well flat enough. Don't have to get perfect. I can get some of the crap off there that melted, but that's about it. Pretty well ready. Now it's flat. Now we're going to move on to screwing the top on. Need a couple little screws, 4 number 6 by 5/8, 3/4 at the most. About the same size as the ones that you took apart to take this off. Okay, we'll move on to that. Okay, so we got the original and we got the new one. Got it pretty flat, which is flat enough. Now we can get 4 holes to line up 2 and 2. And then we can just drill in to this. You got a spot there, you don't want to get that stuck in the hole. You want to get it over somewhere where you got some meat to screw to. It looks pretty close. So, centered. Tighten that up nice. Now we're going to take a nice little drill that I just happen to have a battery for. I'm going to drill a hole. 3/32. Just screw it in a little bit. Okay, everything looks like it's going to line up nice. That should be the right length. Now you don't want to go too far because you're going to go on top of this battery pack. And the last thing you want to do is screw right into a battery. And that would theoretically hit maybe between. That one might just punch a hole right in the battery, so we'll make sure we don't go too far. Screw them in, make sure you're good for length. Now, that means the parts are ready. Let's start assembling. We've got the top, the bottom. This is going to go on here. And of course, you got the 4 screws that you just took out of there. We'll do those screws up, then we'll move on to the next step. This one with the thermal sensor on it, you're going to leave it on anyway. So unsolder this one, which jumps over to the ground. And the ground is crimped on, so you can't really unsolder it and blah blah blah, so just cut it. Just cut it off. Garbage. Peel that off nice so we can look at it. There you go. You're ready. Now, you just got to get the battery part ready and the new one. Okay, now, with this little one soldered in place, I unsoldered it from the original clip. But I did that just to save wire because it's just enough wire to work here. I'm going to make sure we got enough for that connector to sit properly inside the original housing. So this one, I don't want to cut that because it's really short. So I'm going to take this one out. This is our negative here. We've still got that piece on it. You can try shoving it on or whatever you need to do there. Then you got this. There. Keep in mind this is a dead battery, or relatively. So it's not too risky, but you never know, they could still have a little bit of charge to them. So you want to make sure you don't touch that positive and negative together. By keeping this in the holder, I eliminate that risk. Okay, so now I got them tinned pretty good. I can just throw a little bit more on there just for fun. but it seems like that's soldered pretty good. Now this one's going to be a little trickier because it's very short. I don't want to try and solder it from the side and get the solder to drip down in there nicely. Yeah, it's a tough one to see. Now, yeah, I haven't really got it in there. Gotta get that bottom plate warm. There, now I see some. There we go. I think we got her now. Make sure there's actually a solder between the two halves. Seems like there is. Alright, so now we got the connector soldered on. We got a battery. It's really hot. Well, no, the battery's not hot, but the connector is. So, there you go with the connector. Next trick will be assembling this. Okay, so the new one happened to have a lever and this connector that was holding that, but I don't really need it for that anymore. What I do need it for, get this in the right orientation. Notice that it's curved on the one end. I want to get this curved. Kind of move the wires a little bit out of the way. Now, actually I think it fits this way best. We can take this little piece and shove it in there, like that. Now, we're going to have another piece like this.
Okay, so that temperature sensor, just in case it overheats from the old one, we're just going to stick it in there somewhere. And we can slide this whole thing on. Lining up all our holes. And make sure everything goes through there nicely. Yeah. All the prongs are out there. Everything's sitting down half decent. Stick that in there to keep everything together. I'll screw it up. Okay, this one's pretty simple. No safety screws or anything confusing like that for us. There's a couple of good old Phillips. Not Star, they're Phillips. Pull this apart. I don't need that part because I don't fit anything we got anyway. Pull this out. Now, we've got the adapter and we got the whole charging circuit. And we got a little light on it. Now these are marked B minus, B plus, and NTC. That's the sensor thing we got to have that.
Now, just for fun, I temporarily hooked this one up. Made sure I got the positive, because this one over here jammed in, the negative jammed in. Then I had to make a little jumper wire to get that sensor wire, the red one that we hooked up inside. That's to this side. So it's on right now and it's charging. Now what I want to do is take this whole thing, because it is a circuit board and everything, it's got its charge circuit, the sensors and all that. You want to get those three wires hooked into your charger so that they go in the right order. Let that charge for now. It'll work that way, but it would be nicer if I had the regular charger. Okay, so when you're all done and it's actually charged, there you go. There's the 19.2. Running quite well on an 18 volt. great. Doesn't look too crazy. The only trick is the clips. So it will fall out. Now you can put something through there, strap it. I'm going to work on making clips for that. Some kind of a springy thing in there, a little piece of metal, whatever. I might be able to get something in there just to hook onto that. Okay. For now, we got a drill that works and replacement batteries for it. Okay, this is the bottom of the charger. Of course, we got tamper-proof screws, which I got some tamper-proof bits for. So that's got the cord that plugs into the hydro. Now you can hook that all up in one shot, or you can cut it right off and just use this transformer that comes with the new one. Up to you, depends on what works out best for you. Let's take the bottom off and see what's in there. Wow, we sure got a lot of stuff in here. A lot of stuff we're not going to need. Don't need any of that circuit board, but it does have the connectors in the center. That's what we need. So we're going to have to unsolder all that.
Okay, so we got is this ground up pretty well, and then a couple little things that need to break off here. Okay, so that's about it. I'm going to clean that up now. I left the cord, and there's a fuse, and there's, I believe, a varistor there. I just left those two little components. I'm going to clean the other side, and we'll get into hooking it up. Now on this side, we want to keep this area, a little bit of this area, but the rest of this can just go. Well, now there's a little bit of a lack of light here, but I think you can see. I'm just going to squish this a little bit, just till you hear it crack. That should start loosening it up. Oh, there we go. And, oh, yeah, I think we've got her coming apart nicely. Just got to pry that off. There we go. Very carefully open that up nice. Now there's the guts that we need to put on our other unit. Okay, let's go back over there and work on that. Get rid of this because we don't need that anymore. More spare parts. There's a little bit of a gap there. Now, I don't know if you'll have the same one or not, but you may end up with a similar situation. Gently beat the crap out of these things sometimes to get them apart without ruining the innards. We can just carefully annihilate things that we know we don't need, like this case, without ruining anything on that circuit board. Something like that. Slowly, carefully break everything away. Trying not to take a chunk out of your hand at the same time. Until we can get parts where we can actually, there we go, start getting things loosened up a bit. There we go. Now we got it. And that's all. I know. Pretty brutal, but more spare parts. But after finding that that's not really going to fit in the case very well, I kind of had to do that. We haven't screwed up anything there. Leaves us a couple of 110 leads there. And we'll get into positioning that and soldering it into place. Somewhere around there. Gotta make sure we leave enough room for this to come down, which we may not have. We may have to put it up on an angle or something like that. Get it to fit nicely. Something like that would be okay. Well, let's get that in and we'll get back to you. Okay, so now got that out nicely. I've got some wires through there, soldered to one power wire. The other one is here, but it also has a little fuse there, so I just hooked it in there, so it's kind of protected by a fuse just for fun. It's kind of hanging around, flopping around. You could probably hot glue it or something, but, and I've also shortened the cord. It's a little tricky soldering in there, but if you're careful, use a small soldering gun and only a little bit of heat or the copper comes right off the board and then you're screwed. Now I've taken regular house wire, just stuck it in the prongs there and soldered them in. And that way I can fish them through the other side. And now, theoretically, you can get this whole contraption in there. And that light, well, it should give a little bit of light to the indicator on top, but you can play with that if you want to really get it perfect. Well, that's just hanging around in there right now, but it'll be fine. Got that down in there. That should work. Okay. So now we've got this all together. The black being the negative, going to the one marked battery negative. The other one, the white, being the positive, going to the positive. And you've got your sensor charger circuit connected here. You've got your 110 hooked up here. It's connected here through a fuse to your 110 power. Here and here. Keep the fuse in there just for safety's sake. The 14 gauge is a little bit heavy, but it keeps that whole thing in place. You've got your piece here connected very closely to the little light. You want to be able to see that light through there. You got no light on this side, so the red light doesn't work, not there. But that's pretty well it. Now we just got to put the connector, whoop. Now we just got to put the cover on, throw the screws in, and we're done. Now I can try this and see how it goes. Okay, we've got all the screws tightened up. Got our battery ready. It's all good and snug. And put it in the right way. There we go. Now we can actually see that little green light through that little window. Now the red one won't work because there is no red light on this one. But that's going to charge. And we got a battery. And we can just take that out. we're good. Well, we can put it back in here and charge it. Just like that. That's all you got to do.